Welcome back, horror fans. Pumpkin Claw here. 2017 has been full of loss. The horror world recently was hurt with the demise of an iconic figure who will undoubtedly live on through his body of work held as the benchmark for zombie horror. Without a question, I am talking about the brilliant George A. Romero. Night of the Living Dead was his magnum opus, but that film was not my initial introduction to his movies. Personally, I consider his standout piece to be Creepshow. Creepshow is the combined mind between two of horror's paramount innovators, written by Stephen King and directed by George Romero, and could easily be deemed one of the best horror anthologies. The ambivalent music, perfectly constructed stories, amazing EC comic format, and of course, the renowned practical effects from Tom Savini makes it a movie that to this day still puts a chill in my spine. I actually was working on this video before George's passing, and of course, this is dedicated to him. I liked Creepshow too, but the third is a defective attempt to bank on the popularity of its predecessors. With the resurgence of Stephen King in movies and television, the Dark Tower film, It, the Mist series, Gerald's Game, we can utilize the vast amounts of short stories he has in his bibliography to not create a sequel to Creepshow, but a recur, a modern-day revival. First, I would think that King would need to write the script, as he did with the original. But if not vested in the task, then I would like to see Stranger Things creators Matt and Russ Duffer, or one of the writers for Autopsy of Jane Doe, Ian Goldberg. When I was thinking who to direct, of course the ideal scenario would be the return of King writing and Romero directing, but sadly, that cannot be. So the only other name that came to mind was Michael Dougherty. He already brought my second favorite horror anthology of all time to the screens with Trick or Treat, and knows how to properly combine separate tales of horror into a single entity for a fully formed, intricate story. Also, Trick or Treat had the comic touch to it, which is going to be imperative for making a successful Creepshow recur. Just like the original, it would need a flawless transfer from living characters to animate comic book feel, with panels pushing each other off screen and word bubbles in the corners for an authentic EC comic book vibe. In the making of Creepshow documentary Just Desserts, Romero said this was an important element in the film and the design that he intentionally incorporated to be true to the source and needs to keep this aspect intact. Now, out of all of King's stories, which 5 would be suitable and worthy of another Creepshow? There are 5 stories that came to mind that I feel would be remarkable to see in theaters, and with Dougherty directing, could be unforgettable. The first would be Grey Matter from King's Night Shift collection. The story is narrated during a blizzard about a young boy whose father consumes a tainted can of beer that gradually transforms him into something unrecognizable. This was adapted in 2012 for an independent short film, but a studio-backed feature would be a perfect introduction to this anthology. Next would be One for the Road. This adaptation is currently seeking backers on INDIEGOGO and said to be starring the man himself, Lance Henriksen. I will supply a link at the bottom and encourage you to show your support. Before I knew this was currently looking for financial means to go into production, I always felt this sequel to Salem's Lot would be an amazing horror short for a larger anthology. About a group of men trekking through a Maine blizzard to help a family stranded in their car just outside of the famed town. If you are unfamiliar with this story and would like a nice introduction to King, I would definitely recommend getting Night Shift and reading this one. The third segment would be Grandma, an evil story about an 11-year-old boy charged with taking care of his ill-tempered, bedridden grandmother. As the night progresses and he awaits his mother to return, strange noises arise from behind the door to her bedroom. When he checks on Grandma, he finds that she is dead, but has secrets that even death can't hold back. This story is the reason I think Ian Goldberg from the Autopsy of Jane Doe would be an amazing writer to adapt. If you are familiar with the movie and read the story, then you will understand there are homogeneous elements that could be adapted beautifully or fail to transfer. It just requires a talented director with an equal writer to pull off. If set to a snowstorm, then we have a theme that could easily intertwine all these stories together. Popsy is the fourth story that revolves around a man who kidnaps children for the mob. His recent target tells him his Popsy will be looking for him. Soon the man learns that this boy has a friend who is not happy with his disappearance. Another child-centered story that could have variables changed to connect to the final segment. The final piece, Suffer the Little Children, was questionable for me to put in, since recent events in the news has the potential to be very controversial. But with the right director and writer behind it, the adaptation could alter some details to appease those who may be offended. And if not, what is horror without the offensive? Not to ruin too much of the details in the story for anyone curious, it involves a third grade teacher who is rattled after one of her students discloses information about himself and others that gradually breaks down her mental stability and grip on reality. The story makes you wonder if it is all in the teacher's head, or is the horror playing out in real life? Stephen King has said that this story has no social merit whatsoever, but my feeling is it is true horror to the core, with discomforting material, though of course this is 2017 and could easily be taken the wrong way and seen as derogatory. I still think it deserves an adaptation, and would be a perfect addition being set in the atmosphere of Dead Winter, creating the full scope of each section, involving the variables of snow, cold, and corrupted children. Combining these stories with the Creep returning as our symbolic storyteller, it could even pay service to the beginning and end segments of the first Creepshow, with a young man reading a downloaded comic book on his iPad or tablet from the dark net, with a disapproving father who gets it in the end. Maybe Joe Hill will come back and play the father. What do you think of my concept for a Creepshow recur? Any other King stories you would like to see? Comment in the section below, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Stay scared.